Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships and how to heal and cope with these relationships, and sometimes is someone an asshole. So let's take a look at this one. This is somebody, the person writing this is a 20-year-old woman talking about a 23-year-old boyfriend who recently moved in with me. Now, he has ADHD, so noticing when things have to be done and actually doing them are a bit of a struggle for him. Now, I sympathize. I realize it might be difficult, but it's also frustrating to come home at 8 p.m. only to find out I still need to buy groceries and cook because he forgot. Or to want to do laundry only to find out his wet laundry has been in the machine for 4 days. Or wanting a quick bowl of cereal for breakfast, but having to skip it because he forgot to put the milk back in the refrigerator. Having to do his chores, fix something he started, is a daily occurrence. When he moved in, we divided chores 50-50. I let him pick the ones he liked, and I did the rest. But he's not doing his part. We talked about it several times, but he always says he just forgets or doesn't see it. I suggested he downloads an app that'll send him reminders, but he thinks the reminders would only stress him out. So I made him a chore sheet, the most childish one I could, with bright colors and smiley faces for completed tasks. I hung it up in the fridge, and well, he's pissed. He thinks I'm an asshole for humiliating him like this. No one but us has seen it. And then she said, this wasn't a first resort. The little smiley chart wasn't a first resort. I tried lists, notes, checklists, apps, reminding him in person. If I remind him when we're home, he'll say later. If I remind him again, later. I do the dishes that were soaking in the sink for 5 days, and he'll get mad at me because he was just about to get to that. He also doesn't seem to struggle with remembering things or completing tasks at work. Okay. Yes, am I the asshole? No, you're not. And this prompt really struck a chord with me in many ways. Narcissism and ADHD have a relatively high overlap, and I think it's probably because in some of those cases, to really diagnose ADHD definitively requires a very specific kind of workup. And if a person isn't getting tested formally, I don't think that's a meaningful diagnosis. I really don't. I think that there are a series of steps. I was trained in this work. I did this kind of work for years. There's checklists, and other people fill this checklist, and the client fills out the checklist. And I'm saying this now that ADHD, like many forms of neurodivergence, can be quite difficult. And there are things that, for example, there are therapists who focus only on ADHD and routines and ways of getting through it. This guy may have ADHD, but probably not, since he's getting everything done at work. So that kind of on-offing of it, gets it done at work, doesn't get it done at home, despite every bit of support she's offering him, that doesn't make sense. The best thing that this woman could do is say, I don't want to live with you anymore. Because my guess is all of a sudden the milk is going to get back in the refrigerator because he doesn't want to keep buying new milk. She keeps buying the milk. My guess is he's probably going to put the dishes away because his house is going to get overrun with rodents or roaches or something like that. He'd figure it out if he had to. But because of her presence, he doesn't have to. And since she doesn't want to live in a disgusting place that has no food in it, she's going to keep doing these things. So honestly, I would say probably this relationship has no juice in it. But at a minimum, she didn't want to end it. The best thing she could do is stop living with this guy, because that really would cure his so-called ADHD very quickly. But the real, the real ringer here, though, is that it's and it came down. She really did sympathize. She tried to problem solve, as people often do in antagonistic relationships. Because you've got to remember, this person is not psychotic. Right? He's not ever had a break from reality. He could also be getting help, but he's choosing not to. And that choosing not to get help and making this a burden for another person is a hallmark of an antagonistic personality. A person with ADHD who says, ooh, this is causing, a person with ADHD who has empathy, I should say, would recognize my disorganization, or maybe my difficulty to complete tasks, or my not holding up my side of things here is causing distress for another person. And with that reflection might say, I better go seek out help for this, because this isn't fair to the person I work with or live with or work with. That's an example of a person with ADHD and has intact empathy. And we'll often see this person who is neurodivergent, but there's also an awareness of the other people. Then we'll get the help they need and really make a concerted effort. But when she's asking him to do something, this isn't ADHD when someone says, can you do this? And the person says, later. Okay, that's not ADHD. That is oppositionality. That is, I'm not doing it. Oppositionality isn't a part of ADHD. Oppositionality, though, is a part of antagonism and narcissism. And so again, she's attempted over and over, but the whole thing of later, that's oppositionality. Again, that has nothing to do with inattentiveness. And the leaving the clothes in the dryer, someone's going to, in the washer, someone's going to do them. Leaving the milk out, someone's going to do it. If she doesn't want to kick this cat out or move out, the other thing that she could do is not do this stuff. Like literally for maybe a week, don't do the dish. Any of chores that are his, do not do them. Learn to live without milk. Maybe waste a little money for a week getting takeout food, getting, buying your food, eating at work or school, whatever it is, but not doing a thing in the house. Letting him wear clothes that smell like rot. That would be another way to approach this, because this does not sound like ADHD. Could be, but more of it sounds like oppositionality and antagonism on top of it. And I really, really take umbrage at people commandeering neurodivergence issues like ADHD to explain away oppositional antagonistic behavior. It actually paints people who are neurodivergent in a really unfair light, because many people who are neurodivergent do have empathy and compassion and actually really feel the weight of what they might believe is an unfair burden on someone who cares about them. But what they do find is that when they really stretch themselves and try to make it work, even if they don't always get it right, the person who cares about them will see that. That's not this. And so, like I said, it not only creates this sort of unfair characterization of neurodivergent folks, people with ADHD, which is completely untrue, because the antagonistic folks are trying to take that explanation for themselves. It misses this other issue where someone like this feels like they're being an asshole when they've gone to every resort. But here's the thing. When she had to put that little chart on the refrigerator, frankly, if he's having that much trouble, he should have welcomed it. It's like, thanks, this is great. This is a useful tool. But she'd sent him so many useful tools. And he makes it about humiliation, not getting help, not doing what he needs to do. Again, hun, you've got two options. Move out and let him drink rotten milk, or don't do his side of the street for a week or two and see where it gets him. But either way, I really, again, this is how antagonism looks, and that willingness to sort of use an explanation that's going to get him, allow him to get away with more, can really create a very guilt-ridden toxic space.